This is episode 77 of Our Town with Troy By. Please hit that like button, hit the notification bell, rate the show, whatever platform you're on. If you don't mind just taking a moment and giving us a follow, giving us a thumbs up, whatever it may be, please do those things. Really appreciate your support. Keith Overholt, the CEO of Downtown Rescue Mission, has just left the studio. We had an awesome conversation. I'm going to break the episode up into two parts. You're going to enjoy the conversation. It touches on the homeless, and there's a law that has been recently passed in Alabama that makes panhandling illegal. I think you'll find his comments on that interesting. We also talk about how they get their funding and what they do with their donations. We talk about the thrift stores, which are a huge part of how they can do what they do. It's a really cool organization. It's large, and you're going to hear about the history and how they have grown. So really appreciated Keith's time and coming in, and sit back, relax, and enjoy each of the parts. Can we go back? I want to go back a little bit. Was it Lancaster High School?
Yeah.
Not Lancaster, like Lancaster,
No.
Pennsylvania. They'll teach you to pronounce it that way.
We say it the right way.
Lancaster, yeah.
Yeah.
You always know someone who doesn't know Pennsylvania if they say Lancaster.
Yeah, that's right.
This person doesn't
That's
understand. Right. It's just like when I moved here, though. Is it Arab or Arab, or is it Waltriana or Triana? You know, you're trying to figure out. Like, I don't want to be like I don't want it to be obvious.
Yeah, that's right.
In Virginia, there was this road, Wiehle. How would you pronounce that? Wiehle. I'm looking over. We should have introduced Mike.
Yeah.
Put your hand over there, Mike, over the camera. What's your last name? Smith. Mike Smith. He's in the studio as well. Wiehle.
That's Wheelie.
Wiehle, right? So if you were not from that area and you just look at that, I would feel, you would just know right away.
Yeah.
That's an easy discriminator. Like,
Yeah.
This person has no idea. So Lancaster, but so you say at 16 you have that experience with Joe, and it kind of really plants the seed. I am familiar with Lynchburg. You go down to Liberty University.
Yep.
Why did you choose Liberty? I know it's a very, obviously it's very strong religiously, but was there also something related to Downtown Rescue Mission and maybe the nonprofit type thing as part of the curriculum there?
Yeah, they had a really good master's program for business. And so
that's right. That was your master's degree.
Yeah. So in 2005 or 6, my board had come to me at the mission, and they were like, hey, listen, your dad, Doc, who I took over for, he's planning on retiring in the next 2-3 years. And we're kind of looking towards you to maybe take the reins when that happens. But we want you to get more than just your bachelor's degree. We want you to get your master's. And so I sat down with the chair of the board at the time, and I said, here's what I'll do. I can either go the ministry route, where I'll go to a Christian school and go get a master's degree in divinity or something like that. Or I could go on the business side, because I like both. Whatever one you want me to do. And they said, well, listen, the mission's really growing right now. We really need somebody that has a business mindset. So will you go for your MBA? And I said, sure. And they had a great program there. I didn't have to be on campus all the time. I was able to take a lot of it because I was still at work, So, but my MBA came from Liberty, and really, I like the aspect of the Christian part of Liberty because some of my courses still had not the business part, but some of the other courses I had to take also had religion in them. So I want to learn as much about that as possible.
Yeah.
So that's why I picked Liberty to get that. But the board recommended for me to go get an MBA.
But I messed up the timing. So I made it seem like the way I teed this off was you graduated high school and went to Liberty. I forgot you went to, how do you pronounce that? Medaille University.
And it looks like Medaille.
It does.
Yeah.
That was just as I started to remember, like, oh yeah, I was going to ask him, like, how do you pronounce that? That's upstate New York.
It's
right?
Buffalo, yeah.
In Buffalo?
Yeah.
But you went for your undergrad, you went for kind of mass media?
I did. Yeah.
Okay.
Again, I was working for the mission up in Buffalo, and at the time they were looking to have a public relations department. And so I was working with them really as a intern. And so I said, listen, this is something I can see going forward that rescue missions are going to need. So they're going to need something for public relations, because back in the 80s, early 90s, missions were a lot smaller than they are now. Mm-hmm. We take care of a lot more people, help a lot more. They're big businesses. I mean, and you don't want to say it like that. It can come across offensive, but our mission's $10 to $12 million budget. It's a big company that is running there. So when you're going to raise money, you got to know how to do the public relations. And when you're trying to make sure you're managing the books, you got to know the MBA part of it.
Yeah.
So that's a little bit about my history of education. And that's kind of why I took those paths, because I could see that missions were going to have to raise more money because they're taking care of more people. And that's really why I went and got my undergrad in mass media.
And then you ended up in Nashville at the Nashville Rescue Mission before coming to Huntsville, right?
Yeah.
And were you at a different mission before the one in Nashville?
Yeah, I was in Buffalo.
That was in Buffalo.
Yeah.
Okay.
I went from Buffalo City Mission to Nashville Rescue Mission to Downtown Rescue Mission. My goal is I'm hoping to move all the way down to the beach. I keep going down more south, So
This episode is brought to you by TPG. TPG is the founder of the quality assurance industry and most known for the tagline, "This call may be monitored for quality assurance," which they brought to the call center market more than 26 years ago. They dominate the market with an internationally recognized client base of Fortune 500 brands. They have created the quality standards used by their clients and have defined 307 attributes that they measure to define a great conversation, including complex concepts such as skills associated with empathizing and rapport building with customers. For more information on TPG, visit them at tpginc.com. So you were at school, you were interning at the mission, and then when you graduated from Madai, you just kind of stayed on in a full-time capacity.
I did. Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
What was I was going to ask you something else about that. So when I brought up, I wanted to talk about Nashville a little bit, and it kind of goes back to what I was saying, where you got to these conferences. What are some of those missions in cities in the country that you all have, you all at the Downtown Rescue Mission have really tried to emulate or copy, or have some of the best practices and best principles of running their business?
So we're also part of an association called Citygate Network. And Citygate Network has about 320 to 350 rescue missions that is under its umbrella. Mm-hmm. We meet a couple times a year with our local district, but then we have a big national conference where they bring in HUD speakers and, people dealing with homeless. And then also they have tracks that you go on that you can have people train you on board, how to run your boards and how to help with homeless better. And, even how do you do thrift stores better? It's all done at this big conference that we have. And I serve currently on that national board with Citygate. But if there was a mission that I would say that we really look up, and I've got a really good friend there, it's Denver Rescue Mission. I believe their budget last year was something like $40 or $50 million. They're caring for a lot of people. They have a development department that helps raise money that is, got 20, 30 people in it. And it's like, wow, we've got 4 or 5. We're excited about having that many,
Yeah.
And it's not just about the numbers, but the way they present their faith and how Denver's not a very conservative area. And so they're able to stand strong on the truth of what they believe biblically. And so I love what they do. And I always tell my staff, I said, listen, and I want them to go to other missions too. We have them go to visit some Nashville or Birmingham or some of the missions as well, Atlanta. And I say, listen, what we want to do is when we go on, we want to be like Picasso. Picasso had a famous quote that said, "A good artist is a good artist, but a great artist steals." So there's things that other rescue missions do that I want to copy if it's going to work for what we do here, because we don't always have to invent the new wheel, right? And so for us, Denver's always been one of those ones that we can look at and say, wow, look at what they do there. We like to have that come here, whether it's their programs or services they do for the community or how they raise money. Those are the things we look at.
Okay, so I want to play back to make sure I understood. So your dad was this prior president or CEO.
Right.
Okay, then you took over. What was it though, like when you first started? No, let's talk about when you first took over, I guess, from him.
Yeah.
What was the state of the mission at the time? Like, put that in perspective based on if someone was to go visit it now and take the tour, which I did.
Yeah.
Of course, at the time, you probably only had the one facility, but
yeah.
or you weren't even in that facility. at all. It may have been at the other location. From a, I guess, kind of a business standpoint, what was the state of the mission when you took over?
I came in 2000, was my first year. And that year, I believe our total budget was about $600,000. Again, we were on that old campus that was over on 9th Avenue. We had one thrift store that was on the back of our campus that when you drove back there to buy something, you could have somebody pee on your car. I mean, it was not a good location, right? We had a work therapy program where we would send people out in the community and really found that wasn't working. It brought in some money, but man, what we were doing is we were enabling those guys in 2-3 weeks get enough money that they could go out and do it again. And so that was kind of the state when I first came. Now, when my dad came in 96, the mission had been through some really tough times. They had 6 directors in 7 years. He was going to be the 7th in the 7th year. And he had run a very successful rescue mission. He's a pastor by trade. So he originally was a Baptist minister up north, which I hope people in the South don't understand this. Up north, there are no Baptists.
That's true.
So when I went to school in a 2,000 student high school, I was the only Baptist guy out of 2,000 students. The rest of them were Catholic or, Presbyterian. Yeah, but most of them are Catholic. 90% of the population's Catholic. So in 2007, when I took over, the budget was around $3.5 million. And we were helping, I think I looked at the stat the other day, I think we were helping about 195 people a day for sleeping and sheltering and things like that. So we've almost doubled in the last 10, 15 years that I've been running the mission. And listen, my dad did a great job because the mission, when we pulled in, it was almost like tumbleweed rolled through the middle of the campus. And you're like, wow, Dad, are you sure about this? He said, no, this is a challenge, but I'm up for the challenge. And he did a great job getting the mission turned around. People started having faith in what we did again, really changed the culture of what was happening. And so we went from a mission that had all those directors at one time. Now, between he and I, we've been here over 26 years. So, I mean, it's been a solid leadership group for a long time, which it stabilizes things. I mean, it really helps when you don't have somebody moving in and out all the time.
So he took it from 600,000 when he took over to $3.5 million.
Yeah. And
then you took over and we're $3.5 million up to 10 to 12 million, right?
Yeah, I think next year we're around 12 million. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's, it's, again, people need to go and see it, to see that money in action, because the kitchen rivals any other commercial kitchen out there. It's open 24/7 essentially, right? Yeah. It seemed like they're doing stuff all the time. The laundry is always running.
Yeah.
Your laundry and clothes. You have the thrift store. Let's talk about the thrift store.
Sure.
How is that something that is germane to any rescue mission, or is that something that's kind of come along as, hey, this is a great way to have some additional revenue, but also provide clothing to folks, and talk a bit about the business side of the thrift stores.
Yeah. So my goal for anything the mission does is that it's ministry minded first. But Mike, who is sitting with us here today, runs all my thrift stores. He is the general manager over them all. He's my vice president of retail ministries. And the goal really was, when I first got here and had that ministry on the back of our campus, every dollar that was raised, we spent every dollar. So there was no net profit to come back to the mission. It was really just, you go to a pile of clothes and you take, what do you want for that? $1. Okay. Now it's really more, these are retail operations. I mean, they're run really well. If you go to our Madison store, it's a great location. And it would look like, if you didn't know it was a thrift store, you would think it was a regular retail business. But they raise about 65% of our income. So the 7 stores that we have are vital to what we do. Now, they will never fade away to not being a Christ-like example. We have people that come in our doors that ask for prayer, and they, have ministry outreaches that we do through our stores. But the bottom line is they need to raise money for our programs. And so the first thing we did is back in 2003, I believe, 2002, we took that old thrift store that was on the back of the campus, and we moved to Governor's Drive. That was our first location. Man, the board wasn't sure about it. It was just like, holy, what are we going to do? And it was amazing. Immediately, it doubled its profit. We went from no profit really to having about $200,000 in profit. Well, how much different is it for $1 million operation at that time to have $200,000 extra coming in. What more ministry can we do? How much more can we put into the community because we're able to raise that money? And so now I think the thrift stores are around $6 million they bring in, and they net somewhere about 1.5 to 2 million is our goal. But it is a place that people can go and support the mission, but also at the same time be able to get cheap clothing or a cheap recliner, or, and it's very green, by the way. We almost everything that goes through there has some kind of purpose. Either it is sold on our floor, or we recycle it. We have a whole recycling business that a lot of people don't know about. I think we did 720 tons last year of clothing that got baled and went overseas for folks that maybe had a ripping or something. But overseas, they could use it, right? Either it was going to be used for rags, or they would use it for clothing for people that were in Africa. Or, and so whenever you see like a Buffalo Bills shirt that says, and you see it in Africa, that might come from us. That might have been my shirt, by the way. But it's very green, and we love that because it helps the community. Our dumps don't get filled because a lot of that stuff is being cycled through our ministries.
Yeah.
And but if it wasn't for the stores, man, the more that we're able to impact this community, it has to do with what we do. With the stores.
Where is it that people donate or drop off those clothes that ultimately then you figure out what you want to do with?
Yeah, any location. You can drop
it. Okay.
Yeah, you can drop them off at any location. So we have one in Albertville, Decatur, Athens, Meridianville, Huntsville, Madison, and Winchester Road. And so any of those locations, you can drive up or call them up if you have a bigger load, and we'll come out and pick it up with a truck.
Gotcha. We were just at Unclaimed Baggage.
Oh,
I made my first trip there, right? But I was thinking, like, man, like, I don't know the specifics of that, but how lucky for a company to have this idea and get with every airline and say, hey, send us all your stuff.
Yeah.
And it's amazing, right? And I think that's very similar to going to, I wasn't sure what to expect, but I know that when I went there, I was like, this feels like just any other store. And I'm sure that must be a great feeling for a downtown rescue mission thrift store, right?
Well, it's amazing.
People to walk in and be like, this isn't like any other thrift store experience I'm familiar with.
It's amazing with Unclaimed Baggage too that people leave that stuff on a plane, don't come
I
get
know.
it. I mean, there's computers there. There's, anything you can think of. It's crazy. But
I was still, there's like the whole like museum section.
Yeah.
And I'm still like not clear. So somebody left like a man or like a statue of the guy from Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
Like they left that and they don't remember they did.
Yeah.
Like, or is this a joke? Or is it donated? Like, I'm still like, it blows my mind.
Yeah, it's funny.
Or there's like a Turkish wedding dress.
Wow.
Beautiful wedding dress. Like you wouldn't try to track that down?
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe some people just have ridiculous money and they don't care.
That's
they just
probably,
buy
that
another
might
one.
be what it is.
Right.
Yeah.
So fundraisers.
Yeah.
Let's talk about where are you at now with some of the big ones? What are those big flagship fundraising events that one can expect from Downtown Rescue, annually?
Yeah, so we do 3 main events a year. We do a big golf tournament. I think this last year was our 18th annual. And it raises good amount of money, and it's a good source for us to be seen in the community because, whenever you do something like that, people are saying, hey, I want to put my name on that, and they advertise it, and then hey, you know what, I need to give to the mission too, right? So we have the golf tournament. We have a shoot that is a clay shoot that we do in the fall, and then we do a glow run, which is more towards the evening. Everybody puts on glow sticks and paint, and they do a 5K. And that was real successful. I think we had 1,100 people that came to it last year. And so a lot of it is for us to make friends for the community. And we want people to know what Downtown Rescue Mission is about. But also we want it to raise money too, of course.
Yeah.
So those are the big events that we have. And then the way that we raise most of our donated money is we send a piece in the mail that people will get, or you can go online and give online. That's the majority of how we raise our money.
Okay. Yeah, it's been fun being here. I mean, I'm in a role with my normal job where I'm always looking for where could we donate money, right? What could we benefit, and just trying to take it all in. But I guess I'm thinking about I'm gonna set up a scenario for you. I was doing some research and I noticed like back in March or so there was an article written about how panhandling may become illegal in the state of Alabama.
Yeah.
And then I guess in the beginning of June, it became illegal to panhandle on state maintained roads and other areas. So recently I live off County Line Road, right? So we're sitting on Limestone County side. Incidentally, when we moved here, we had about, 10 seconds to decide, right? Like, it's the market's moving so fast. And we were in Virginia, and my wife flew down here, and we had like 12 homes that she was supposed to look at. She went and looked at them with the real estate agent on a Friday, and what do you think?
Yeah.
Yeah, you have no idea. And like, well, so we get it. Like, oh yeah, great. And I had never seen it, and that's fine. There's enough pictures online. And we're just south of Browns Ferry, and they're building, there's a new Circle K going in, which is exciting. Yeah. I got my soda run. You're a soda guy, and I'm a huge soda guy, so I can't wait to just walk there. But there's this family recently that's been, there's a guy with a sign. Hey, we're in transit. We need help. They look like they're Eastern Bloc of descent. And then there's the wife and a couple, if not 3 kids, kind of sitting under the hot sun and these like umbrellas and, just doing their thing. When you see people like that now, I'm going to ask you now, Keith, you're a class of 88?
Yeah.
So you're probably like 52 years old?
53.
53? Yeah. As a 53-year-old and you run a rescue mission,
right?
If you were to approach these people, what would you say? Outside of the law, outside of it's against the law, what are you going to say?
Most of the time, they're going to approach me. Right?
Okay.
But since I am the director of the mission, I'm going to go and see what's going on. Because I know the services that we provide at the mission. But I have to tell you, and some people take this wrong, but I am all for us not having panhandling. 95% of the people that panhandle, it's going to their addiction. That's a true stat. And, yes, our Christian heart wants to give to them, but we're not helping them. We're enabling them to continue the path they've been down. Every other year or so, I usually write a newsletter article saying why not to panhandle, why not to do these things, or why not to give to somebody that panhandles. That Middle Eastern family was offered to come. I even know.
Oh, you know what I'm talking about?
I do, because one of my board of directors is out here, and he said, "Listen, there's this family. I come across them all the time. Can I tell them to come to the mission?" Oh, sure. Well, they didn't want to come to the mission, and the big part of it is because they're using that money for things that they shouldn't be using it for.
Yeah.
And I have people say, "Well, it makes my heart feel good because I've given." That's what the Lord asked me to do. I think the Lord also tells us not to give to people that are using it wrong. I think there's many cases in the Bible that the Lord pulled back from something, or how many times do we see Israel go through some tough times because the Lord pulled back and he said, "Listen, you're not doing what I've asked you to do. I'm not giving you blessings right now." I feel the same way with that, with the folks at Panhandle. I know this stat. During the 80s in New York City, there was a guy who lived in New Jersey. And every day he would go to the inner city of downtown Manhattan. And back then he was making $50,000 a year panhandling. Now, $50,000 in the early 80s was good money. So he had this middle-class house in New Jersey, and he was raising his family. But he was just going out and panhandling. He just didn't want to have a job. Well, like I said, most of the time, you may have that one particular case. But what I always say to folks is, if you ever are approached, or if you are, if you see somebody and man, they're sweating out there, or they've got their dog with them or whatever, tell them, "Listen, I've got a place for you to go. It's called Downtown Rescue Mission." Majority of the time, they're going to say, "Oh no, they kicked me out of there," which is not true.
Yeah. Why?
Here's the thing: they're out there because they want to raise money for what their end goal is, right? And so I always tell people, listen, instead of giving to them, why not tell them to come to the mission and give to the mission, or some other nonprofit? It doesn't have to be the mission, but some other nonprofit that's taking care of homeless. And just tell them, hey, why don't you get a place to go? Because you're not going to get any better just by begging for money on the street.
So if you were walking down I think it's a CVS, right? You're walking down the sidewalk and you encountered them. You would essentially walk up and introduce yourself and invite them to the mission, to which because you're familiar with, they'll decline it.
Yeah.
But that's what you would do.
I of course I have my business cards on me and it has my cell phone number on it. I hand him my card and say, call my cell phone if you have any trouble getting in. We want you to come down to the mission because we can take care of you. We're going to help you better than you being on the street collecting money any date. Why don't you try to get your feet under you for a couple months? Come down and stay with us, and we'll help you out. Get in our program, whatever it is. But most of the time, they're going to tell the people, no, I just need some money. In fact, a story a couple weeks ago, I really recommend for ladies not to get involved because you never know what's going to happen. Now, if you're a husband or a man, you go together, I'm okay with that. But I've heard too many occasions where the girl gets robbed or something like that. So I wouldn't recommend for somebody, even if you're going up to give them a sandwich. But I heard a lady go and say, hey, listen, there was a guy that over at Walmart there on 72. There's always some people right around the corner as you pull in. And she finally said to him, hey, listen, I'm not going to give you money, but I want to go buy you a sandwich. Your sign says you're hungry. He said, no, I just want the money. He was truthful with her. He said, I really don't care about your sandwich. I just want the money. Can you give me a couple bucks? So his end goal wasn't about going and getting a $3 meal at McDonald's. His end goal was that he wants to either keep on his addiction or continue to keep him homeless. I mean, a lot of the folks that are in the camps are the ones that are doing the panhandling. Yeah. And how are they able to sustain themselves? Well, people give them money. And listen, I never want to say, hey, I look down on you or feel, that I'm frustrated with you. As a Christian, man, we want to reach out and help people as much as we can. But, man, we're not.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, we're enabling them to do the things that they're not supposed to be doing.
Cause and effect.
Yeah.
Right. The effect is you're on the street. What's the cause? And let's really get into that.
Yeah.
Right. And then, unfortunately, my brother's one of them. I've posted a clip recently. He wants to live on the street. That's, he's a meth addict. Yeah. And that's what he wants. And I've saw a couple clips where they're interviewing, there's people who go around and they interview homeless people. And by and large, obviously they're trying to get back into society. But there's every now and then there's someone, I like living outside. Yeah. It's just who I am, And obviously you can't help. You can lead the horse water, right? But you can't make him drink.
That's right. Is he in the area or?
No, he's actually in Utah.
Okay.
Yeah. But he,
well, if
drugs.
If he's ever willing to go to a place, I know a place out there he could go.
Oh yeah. He's in. I'd have to find. He's in some sort of thing now, but for him, unfortunately, it's more mental health. And a lot of that's just been undiagnosed, and/or he's unwilling. He's just unwilling to go through a program. Yeah. Because he just feels, and also it's like the friendship thing, right? When you have people who struggle socially. And he never had a lot of friends. But then you find a friend, whoever that is, and whatever they make you do, you want to be their friend. Yeah. And if they make you do drugs, you do drugs. And then if they make you do crime, you commit a crime. And then ultimately all his friends are in jail. Yeah. And then he'll get out, and then he wants to commit crime so he can go back and see his friends, right? Or go through whatever program. And it's just, it's this thinking that has just become so warped. Right, where you get to the point where that's just what he wants to do. And
well, it's like I mentioned before about the Reagan years. I mean, we really pushed a lot of the mentally ill out, to the streets. And who was going to take care of them? Well, Mission stepped up and said, "Hey, come down here." It's not something that back then we were really ready for, but now we have the case managers and counselors, and we work with mental health, and so we've got the things set up now that we take care of them well. But if there weren't mentally ill folks on the streets, it would be a lot easier. I mean, a lot of what you see on the West Coast, where it's, and I know you went to Seattle, so you saw this, there is a different homeless out there. The guys that are speaking to themselves and they're walking around barefoot and it's only 20 degrees out. And, I mean, it is complete. And I've been around this for a long time. It is because a lot of them are driving out there because they're freer out there because they don't set up any kind of government limitations. There's a picture of LA County, and on the other side of county, halfway across the bridge is the other county. There's a bridge, and I'm not sure what bridge it is. But on the LA County side, you see all these tents and everything under this viaduct of where the bridge is. On the other side, you don't, because they have rules against it. You can't do that. The rules aren't bad. Right. It's okay. We want to help these folks. The governments out there that are doing these things where they're accepting all homeless in, come out, live on our beaches, live under the. We're not going to do anything to you. You're not helping them at all.
Right.
We're hurting them. Structure is a big part of what they need, and that's what we offer a lot at the mission and through the agencies that we all have with that Citygate network that I mentioned.
Yeah.
So, like, if anybody ever heard this podcast or anything, wanted to get in touch with me and said, "Hey, I've got somebody in San Francisco. Well, I know a mission out there." Or if somebody in Buffalo, I know a mission there, because I really think that each one of those missions is the place that a lot of these folks need to go.
When I interviewed Jessica Brown, so episode 35, first stop, one thing, there's the shower up. Now, I know that you guys have a really large facility, right? And they can take showers, but I guess they're using I think his name is Tyler May, and he owns a company called Shower Up.
Yep.
And they park their trailers out there so the homeless, the unhoused, can take a shower, go to a job, while they try to become self-reliant, and also have a physical address, right? So that if they are trying to apply for a job and says, "What's your address?" Right? You have something to put down. You have a little more pride. I'm assuming do they use your address of the facility if they're looking to apply for a job?
Yeah, they use ours, and also First Stop is set up for that.
Okay.
Yeah, First Stop is where a lot of the guys who are on the streets use as their address. They have a mailbox for them to go to and things. We don't do that with the guys on the street just because we're dealing with 300 people. We already have a lot of mail.
Gotcha.
And so there's some things that are laws that go along with the mail portion too. Like, I can't come to your mailbox and send something to your mailbox and it come to me, right? I mean, there's so we have to watch some of those legal things. But First Stop helps with that, and then with the shower unit, I'm not sure how they're doing that for a physical address, but the folks that stay with us use our address.
Gotcha. And there's also the part of the program when they do graduate out, if you will, or finish the 1 year, they can actually kind of stay on, not associated with the rescue mission and kind of separate different quarters, right? Up to 3 years. Is that accurate?
Yeah, and maybe even longer.
Okay.
So we are always analyzing how we're helping best. And so we used to have an 18-month program. We said, hey, that's just a little too long. So we made it down to 12. But what we found is that we take care of every one of their needs. Now, people are always like, well, why don't you get that guy just go out and get a job? Well, I'll tell you what, when they're at the mission, they've got chores that are harder jobs than a lot of people have as real jobs. Whether they're serving at one of our desks for letting people in, or if they're helping on the maintenance team, or if they're at the thrift stores working, we're trying to have them train up so that they're able to, once they leave. But we supply all their needs for that 12 months. They don't have to go and buy food. They don't have to buy clothing. They don't have to pay utilities. So all these things have been taken off of them for a year while they go through the program. So our graduate program, which is our extended housing program, it's supposed to be short term, but we're not the kind of people that say, well, you know what, your 2 years is up and you're out the door. Well, I want to make sure they've got a church that they're going to, maybe somebody that's mentoring them, that they have a savings account and a car, and make sure their driver's license. If they have some of those things, with blessings, please go out and come back and volunteer if you ever can.
Gotcha.
And so that's a big part of what we're moving towards, is we like to have some more of that kind of housing, where it's that transitional housing. We have two separate buildings. I don't know if they showed you on the tour, but we have one that's on the corner of the street just above us that's we own. It's like I said, transitional housing for men.
Oh, okay.
And then we have a house in the back of our campus. But we really would like to get where we buy up some more of those houses on that one street that are really Section 8 housing, that we could take those over and use those as our graduate program once the folks graduate.
That's awesome. I want to play the quick six with you.
Yeah.
This is just where I ask you 6 questions. Although the answers don't have to be quick.
Okay.
I just call it the quick 6. All right. If you were to choose, I don't know if are you a pilot of any sort? You ever flown a plane or anything? Neither have I.
Just a boat.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you were to choose between, you could be a helicopter pilot, a fighter jet pilot, or a pilot of a spy plane, what would you choose?
I probably would pick a fighter pilot, because that's exciting. I don't know if my body could take the G-force, but it'd be fun. I'd be that one guy that has to be ejected out because he blacked out, but I think it'd be fun.
Okay. I know you like to fish.
Yeah.
if you could fish with one person for a full day, just pick their brain about whatever, who would that be? Let's say 8 hours on the water.
Yeah.
Just you and that person.
Are they good fishermen?
That they don't have to be.
Oh.
But just selfishly, whatever, like, man, I can't believe I'm going to get 8 hours with this person. I can't wait to just suck every amount of wisdom and knowledge out of them.
Yeah. I know this is going to sound like a Bible school answer or Bible Sunday school answer, but it would be Jesus. I'd want to know, listen, all these questions I have for you, I'd love to know them now. Plus, he could tell me to throw my net on the other side and I could catch the fish, But really, it would be him, and then my second would be my dad. I always love going fishing with my dad, and he's got so much knowledge, and he's turning 80 this month, and, still puts into me things that, are helpful for thinking through the processes.
And he went by Doc?
Yeah, he goes by Doc. He's had many names through the years. He used to be known as Pastor, and he's Doc, and he, Rusty. He's got red hair.
Okay.
I'm not sure if he knows what his real name is anymore.
If you could go back and kind of have a mulligan, using a golf term, or to do something over in your life, what would it be?
I think that my path in life is put there according to the will of God. So I don't think, even the struggles that I went through, because I went through those, I'm a better man, a better leader, a better father, a better son, because I've been through those times. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't want to take those away. Some of the things, there's songs written about it, the scars that you have are really how you learn, right? Mm-hmm. So I wouldn't take them all again on him. Even the mistakes that I've made, bad choices, I've learned from that.
Okay, that's fair. All right, so eventually these Buffalo Bills are going to win the Super Bowl, and you're going to get to go to the party.
I'm 53. They only got a few years left.
By the way, I shouldn't say this, but I absolutely hate Dan Snyder, right, who used to own the Redskins and now the Commander, or luckily he finally sold the team.
Yeah.
And I was telling my kids the other day, there's probably none of us want to kill anybody, but, there's a few people that are on anybody's list.
Tom Brady.
And Dan Snyder's one of them for me. Maybe
Tom Brady for me.
Vladimir Putin, Kim Jong-un.
Yeah, that's awesome. Tom Brady.
Yeah,
he stopped us from going to the playoffs so many times. It was ridiculous.
I hope that this podcast reaches Dan Snyder, because I have a few stories that people have told me.
Yeah.
That is not a good dude.
Yeah.
He is just a dirtbag.
Yeah.
All right. So, but the Bills are going to win a Super Bowl, and you're going to the party, and they ask you to come up and do some karaoke.
Yeah.
What are you going to sing?
80s rock.
Any particular song in mind? It's like your jam?
Let's see. What would I sing for a celebration? We Are the Champions by Queen.
Okay. You a good singer?
I sing at my church right now. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
I don't know if that's good or not. It says sing a joyful noise. That's me. I'm joyful.
Mike, can you attest? Is he a good singer?
He's a good singer.
Okay.
He had a band.
I used to have a Christian rock band.
Did you?
Time ago. Yeah.
Let's see. All right. Let's say you get invited to give to talk to the commencement address at Lancaster High School. Class of 2024. What are you going to tell them?
That my faith is going to be a part of the speech, but that as you go through life, like we mentioned before, take the things that you are bitter about and make yourself better. Don't be bitter, be better. Because if you're a person that's trying to be better, whether you're a Christian or not, boy, this world's going to be so much better place to be. If everything we do is about, oh man, that guy's after me, or it always hurts me. Or take that and say, you know what about that can I make myself better because of that?
Yeah.
That's what I would tell them.
I was crestfallen for you that they had to cancel your reunion, your 40-year reunion, because there was a lack of interest.
Yeah.
But you replied,
Yep.
and you're like, hey, well, thanks for trying to put it together. We
Yeah.
appreciate your efforts.
Yeah. We're getting old. 40 years. That's
I know,
crazy.
man.
Whew.
I'm the class of 94,
Oh, yeah.
so it's coming up
So
for
you're
me.
young.
Yeah. Just a little bit. My sister graduated the same year as you.
Okay.
Most underrated place to fish. What's the secret?
Lake Erie.
Really?
Oh, yeah. The size of the smallmouth bass there are unbelievable. And it's funny because they, back in the 70s, Lake Erie actually caught on fire.
Really?
It was so toxic and the water was bad. And, but we had some what are they called? Something came over from one of the ships that was a foreign substance, like a little
fiber or
little shellfish or something that was there, and it cleaned up the water. Like if you go there now, you could see like 20 feet down. And but the bass they're huge. I mean, it's amazing how big the lake's all clean now, and it's a beautiful place. And during the summer, Buffalo does not get snow, so it's nice to be there.
Yeah. You have a trip planned for this year to go back?
I just got back from there. I was up there for the weekend.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you went fishing?
I didn't get to go fishing.
Oh, look at you there.
Yeah.
Okay. And all right, so I'm going to give you one more. This is going to be one more question. So this is the quick 7. And I like to ask this question of people. So you know downtown Huntsville pretty well, right?
Yeah.
Like Probst Arena and all that. It's let's say it's you and whoever, maybe it's your daughters, but whoever you would drive in your car with, have the windows down and sing to whatever song is on the radio or on a CD, right? Spot, whatever your playlist is. Something you're not embarrassed to just sing at the top of your lungs. There's a concert letting out where there's just people filling the street, right? But you're one of the few cars that gets to kind of like slowly drive through. And you want these people to hear you sing. What song are you singing? And you can't pick Queen because you already did that one.
Yeah, Queen's one of my favorite bands. Maybe something off the 5150 album from Van Halen. I think Eddie Van Halen was one of the greatest guitarists ever. If I could ever sing with his guitar playing up on stage, that would be awesome. But yeah, I would be blasting something from 5150 for sure.
That was a good album.
Oh yeah,
really good album.
I shouldn't admit how much I like rock and roll. I mean, it's completely opposite from everything else I do, but I love rock and roll.
Nah, man, it's well. You find even my youngest boy is 16, and he actually skipped over the 80s. He's like he likes the 60s and the 70s music.
Wow,
he's just kind of like picked up on that, or even
music.
The 50s. He'll like listen to stuff from the 50s, which is crazy.
Yeah,
right. But yeah, some of the music is just timeless.
Yeah,
just timeless. You have any final thoughts? I think we're gonna wrap up. You probably got. I know you've got a knee that needs to be. What am I looking for? Rehab.
Yeah.
You're probably in some pain.
Yeah.
We got to get you down the stairs. But yeah, any final thoughts from you?
Well, I appreciate you letting us come on today and share a little bit about what we do at the mission. I know people think of rescue missions like, oh, you kind of got to have it, right? And I want people in this community to go, man, we're proud we have the mission. Mm-hmm. If it wasn't for the mission, man, those 300-400 people are on the streets. What would they be doing during the winter when nobody else is taking them in, And then the outreach that we have to the community, we really try to be the best neighbor to anybody that we can be. And so I say all that to say, I would love for people to come down and take a tour. I think the tour, you can sell the mission just by taking the tour to see what we really do, because a lot of people don't know all the things that we do. Mm-hmm. So that would be my thing. I love this community. The donations that come in are just phenomenal. People are so giving and want to give to an organization that's doing good. Mm-hmm. And that's always the things that I say. Come down and visit us, and thank you so much for being either a volunteer or donor or what we do here at the mission.
Is there anything that we didn't talk about that you wanted to talk about?
Well, how many fish I've caught, or that the Bills are going to win the next 3 Super Bowls.
Wow.
Or, we're pretty much what we've talked about, I think, has been great.
Okay. Well, I appreciate you coming in. And I look forward to, I think I'm going to be helping a little bit with I think you guys are going to start a podcast. So I'm interested to just tell them, hey, I'll get whatever I can do to help to get that going and make that a reality.
That'd be great.
I think it would be really cool to see, to those that are willing to do it, kind of those that I'm assuming would be kind of the testimonies of those that you're helping, right?
Yeah.
And for people to, just like if we're not aware what the rescue mission does until you go do a tour, whatever you think about a homeless person, just hear them talk.
Yeah.
See them shed tears and cry over their situation and how sometimes embarrassed they are and how desperate they want to get back.
Yeah.
Right. That not all of them are there because of just bad decisions, right, or drugs or whatever it may be, right? They may have they have a tough go, at times, right, and it tugs at your heartstrings.
Well, I mentioned this earlier, but the people that come to us are your neighbors, your friends, your sisters, your brothers. And man, I hate when they're put down.
Yeah.
I really do. I've had people come and tell me, you deal with those dogs down there. Boy,
Yeah.
those are almost fighting words for me because, man, I know some of my brothers and sisters that have come through the program, and I consider my good friends. You know, I went to, I know we said we were about to end it, but I went to a restaurant a couple years ago, and a guy came up, and I didn't recognize him. He had been gone from the mission for 10 years, and he looked completely different because when he came to us, he was a different guy. He was, you know, beard and all disarray, and, you know, and he came up, and after the meal was done, he said, "Hey, I just want to tell you, I know you guys are with the Downtown Rescue Mission. Thank you for changing my life." Boy, if we weren't there to help change his life, man, and he said, "I've got a wife now, I've got a home, I've got kids." He said, "I've got a couple good jobs." He said, "Thank you so much." And I thought that was, you know, it's going to stick with me forever, just hearing what he had to say.
Yeah. I was talking to, I don't remember what guest it was. Sometimes it runs together, but I think nowadays there's this mindset that equal opportunity produces, like, you know, there's a desire for equal opportunity and equal outcome, where it's like, no, it's there, but there's opportunity everywhere.
Yeah.
If no matter who you are and what your circumstance is, the Downtown Rescue Mission and so many other places are examples of that. Hey, if you're not able to get opportunity from your family or something, there's going to be someone there to pick you up and help you out. And if you're willing to do it, you can make it big time in this country through so many opportunities that are there.
And, you know, I know we've not gotten too political, but, you know, our country's so divided on every issue. Yeah. I mean, it doesn't matter if you're Republican or Democrat or what color skin you have. Man, if we could all just give a little bit to somebody else, all that stuff starts going away because your heart starts to melt from that cold heart that you have that says, "Oh, I got to fight about everything." Well, you don't. Mm-hmm. You know, I don't know what your politics are, but we didn't have to talk about politics today, and boy, you're my friend, right?
I know.
I just wish that people could say, "Hey, listen, what can I do to help somebody else?" And if we were all doing that, I think we'd have a whole lot less going on with the divided country that we do. I think it's going to be the downfall of our country.
Yeah.
Because there's so many people that are so negative, or they hold a stance on something that they can't even hear the other side. That's not right. That's not how we should be as humans. My first thing should be that I love my brother and my sister, right? Mm-hmm. And how are we doing that if we're always fighting?
Yeah. Here's the letter. I'll just bring it up real quick. This is from, I think, one of your latest issues. I took a screenshot of this, so otherwise there's a magazine. But I wanted to. Well, it starts out. A recent survey stated that 26% of the population in the U.S. does not believe in God. Now that's changed a lot.
Oh yeah,
right over the years. And let's see. Let's just go to the last paragraph. The Downtown Rescue Mission will always be bold for God in our faith as we share about salvation through Jesus Christ to all who will listen. And then you list Ephesians 3:12. Paul tells us that through Jesus we should have boldness and confidence in our faith, no matter if it is politically correct or not. We are at the mission will be a testimony through the boldness of our faith in God.
All I know is that, well, listen, it's really that God put me in a position to be leaders over great people. I have great teams, and listen, they're the ones that need to get the accolades because they do great work and really do a job that a lot of people wouldn't understand because I said it before, they are called. Mm-hmm. And because of that calling, they put in the extra hours. They get the lower pay. There's a bunch of even Mike that's sitting with us here today, he could go out and make $100,000 more than he's making with me. But he does it because he loves he has the passion and the love for the folks like I do, that he wants to help them in any way he can. And so for me, that's the big thing. And listen, I think the problem with our country is that there aren't enough bold leaders that come out and say, "Hey, I'm just going to stand on this principle because this is what I'm not going to be swayed no matter what on that." Are we going to not receive some funding? Maybe. Right? Are we, possibly not going to have a new building or that? Maybe. But, if I stand on that, I know my God owns the cattle on 1,000 hills, and he's going to take care of every need that we have.
There you go. It's been a pleasure, man.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All the best to you in your recovery.
I like your shirt, by the way.
Oh, thanks.
That's
Oh, yeah.
amazing.
And I'm going to hand you guys a couple shirts on your way out.
All right.
Thanks, Mike, for sitting in. And I was duly impressed and blown away. And I've had the pleasure. I've had a lot of experience with, humanitarian aid and service and trying to help people with self-reliance. And you guys do it really well.
No, thank you.
So all the best.
Thank you, brother.
And go Bills.
Go Bills.
Take care.
Thanks.